Nashville is probably one of the last spots on the planet where you have this collection of great studios and rooms still active. Talk about some of those favorite rooms that you've...
Well, the two that are everlasting is going to be Sound Emporium and then Ocean Wave, because they're owned by universities now, but allowed to still continue.
Tom, any follow-up in your experiences with Nashville? What's changed over the years, or what's relatively been the same?
Considering Eddie did more before breakfast in his recording career than I've probably done in my entire life, I won't touch that. But, really, just coming here in the late 90s, I came here as part of a band. And of course, following Eddie and, Lonnie and all the guys that we all look up to and that side. But the thing that I've noticed is as the matriculation from Music Row, as that changed into Berry Hill, and like you say, that rooms that are still existing, but just really just seeing how diverse, and again, Eddie could speak this better than I could, but just from the diverse range of artists who've come to town, in terms of when we're talking about drummers, performers, our backgrounds, I've known, like some of us, Jeff and I kind of know each other through the circles of the college scene in the late 90s, because that's what I came out of with bands like Sister Hazel. That's what brought me here. And Mike and Derek were nice enough to bring me on here at Pearl back in 98. But yeah, I think seeing that the advent of so many top players, coming out of different programs and coming to town that are, with extremely diverse backgrounds. And you see it even now. I mean, you go down on Broadway, as much as you might see someone who maybe is a less experienced player, you're also seeing some fantastic young talent, just that kind of evolution. That's one of the number one things I've kind of noticed in my time here.
Excellent. That's a great story. And you mentioned also the famous snare drum that's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that a little bit. And Kent, let's go to you on just, is there a sound? Is there that Nashville sound when it comes to drums? And there's a lot of different styles and genres that's represented here. And of course, new music is a little bit different than some of the older music. But is there a Nashville drum sound, and what would that be?
To my ear, I keep going back to the Eddie well, but that drum sound, the big gushy, just the bigness of the drums. I think that's still a thing. I think, in my instance, I'm cutting through a bunch of guitars. It's basically an 80s arena rock show with country lyrics is what it is. So it's big and bombastic. So I always tend to lean toward the bigger drum sounds. I use a 13, 16, 18, 24. I like the big sounds. Of course, depending on the track, every now and again, I'll record for somebody, and they specifically, man, I want the toms to sound, smaller and cut through and this and that. But for the most part, I use the big, to my ear, snare drum. Sounds about like 6.5 by 14, and just the big toms. I just always, even when I played with Pam, I used bigger drums. I used 24, 13, 16 with her. And, a lot of it's tuning and everything, but I always tend to, the bigger sounds, for that specific gig that I'm doing, because I'm trying to cut through a lot of noise up there. So, yeah, and even the records I listen to, I know Shannon Forrest has a big drum sound. A lot of the guys, and I know even, I guess Near Z, I think he uses smaller drum, but they sound big. Everything to me just, I don't know if it's just the way my ear hears it, but everything sounds big.
I'm feeling like it's more wide open now.
I think so, yeah.
Just in general, it's changed from let's stop using the gaff and the gels. It's still necessary. Ray, we did a shoot recently, and even you're very minimal when it comes to muffling. And I think it's just that wide openness now that is in vogue and a lot of you are incorporating.
Out of habit, the gentleman helping me on the road, when he first joined, I would put dampenings in. The very first thing he did, he took those things off, said, "You don't need those." And I was like, okay, in the way it's the way he did what he did, and I've learned a lot from him about tuning and everything. But he can make it's the big drum sound that I've always loved, and normally 9 times out of 10, if I get a track, lucky enough to get a track to play on, they want a big drum sound. I specifically asked, what kind of drum sound you going for? They're like, big. 9 times out of 10, big. I'm like, okay. I've never heard anybody. I want a really small dangerous sound. In fact, I don't want to be heard.
Just looking around, I don't think there's anybody here that doesn't have that big sound. Regardless of the style. I know Russ, Keio. Everybody here has got big drums that resonate and you got to feel it in your chest. Those are all like a common theme, I think, with everybody.
And
here.
again, I think it's genre, the gospel stuff, I think 8, 10, 12, because again, it's a tonal thing. You're cutting through different style instruments and things, and different style playing and everything. So I think it's just, again, depends on the genre you're playing as well, and what kind of tones you're wanting to get. So jazz, I think, obviously you would use tighter tuning and this and that. So again, it's all relative. But I think overall, the country genre is, big stuff.
Now you pointed to Marcus and said jazz. So Marcus, let's use that as a launching pad here. And now it's not just country music in Nashville, Tennessee, right? We have metal, we have the jam scene, we've got jazz. So talk about the jazz scene. How has that evolved? In Nashville specifically.
It's definitely evolved from, I got here in 99, and that community at that time, you had Tommy G, Chris Brown, Bob Mader, and Jim White. At least those are the 4 that I was aware of. Chester Thompson, I don't think was here yet at the time. And, the Jazz Workshop was one of the places that really kind of carried to try to establish, I guess, a community of jazz. And now we have Rudy's, almost 2 decades later. And the diversity of players that have moved here, especially since COVID, but I can't tell you now how many drummers are in town that can, bop, as we say, get up and start tipping. I used to know the handful that existed, and now I have no idea how many, and which to me is great. I love the fact that there are more players in town, because in my opinion, I remember one time subbing a gig for someone years ago, and that drummer called me. There were drummers that were upset with me that I was getting calls for certain gigs early on, when I was still in college, and I was like, man, I barely know this person. Why are they mad at me? I didn't make the decision. It's to take a gig, to take somebody else's gig. And when I called the artist, I said, hey man, I'm not trying to take somebody's gig. And that artist said, hey man, this ain't nobody's gig but my gig. And I said, noted. And from that point forward, I said, if I'm receiving the checks, it's a job, and I need to do what the job is asking me to do. If it's my gig, that means my name is on the marquee and I'm writing the checks, so I am replaceable. I try to maintain whatever relationship I have with said artists. And if they decide to move on to somebody else, it's cool. Move on to something else and keep that bridge intact, because they could call you back, which has happened,
And that's just a jazz thing, man.
It's totally just jazz.
But you know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean.
The artists they want to break it up.
They want to break it up because they you have to think of it, it's still a song, at the end of the day. Kev Mo is a person who really, and Keio will tell you too, who has really changed how I listen to music over the last few years, where, that drum groove is not the song. Yeah. The melody is the song, and the lyric, the story, that's the song. And Kev would say to me sometimes, especially in live shows, he would turn during sound check, and if you all have ever worked with Kev, you understand what I'm, if you work with him, then you get it. But he would turn around and say, hey, don't step on the money. Don't step on the money. In other words, when that lyric is moving into the verse or into the chorus, there's a pickup, that's not a place for you to necessarily do a fill. Or if you play a fill, make sure it's rhythmically in line with that lyric. Not a triplet over an eighth note vocal lead,
That's the one thing I gotta say to interrupt that. When I heard Marcus play at the Jazz Club, that's exactly what I felt with him. And you have to kind of do that as well with Kurt Elling as well.
Yeah, big time.
It's definitely a thing.
Kurt Elling, incredible, singer, And his vocal pocket, that's one thing I was sharing with Desmond earlier, like, you know, playing with certain singers who have a particular pocket across genres, you can feel it. And it's almost like I would call them drummers, singers. But at the same time, you are just still trying to like make sure that you sound right. I think this is just my opinion. Like, you can either sound right or you can be right. So if you're on stage and the singer makes a mistake, you can bulldoze your way through it. But then now you got an awkward moment versus trying to find like where they are, because they are the focus. It's not you. You don't have to well, I'm right. It's like, you're right, fine.
All of the singer.
To pile on for a minute, I think that transcends just about every genre of music. Though, really.
Yeah,
pretty much. Really does.
Pretty much.
Really
I want to
does.
copy everything he just
What they were saying, you know, serve the song first. Yeah. Serve the song first.
serve
You
the
know.
song, serve the singer, serve the melody.
So the melody, yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
serve the
talking
melody.
about every genre of music. So Ray, you moved here from LA,
Sorry about that.
not necessarily for country music,
Don't put that on there.
but talk about why Nashville. Talk about the drumming community, the music community, Ray, and just how it's embraced you. You've embraced it, and talk about that experience.
It's a different animal for sure. I mean, I cut my teeth out there in LA. When I was 18, I moved from 118-acre farm to Hollywood Boulevard. So it was like I got slapped upside the head. I had no idea what naive, gullible, everything involved. I had no idea what this whole networking thing before the phone we hold every day. But like, it's a lot. It's different out there. It's a different animal. It's like I've been to so many auditions out there and so many failed original bands. And when I started getting national gigs, you know, Jake Ely from Ozzy. When I got the David Lee Roth gig, that was a big. We're talking about singing and the vocals and all that. That was one of those gigs where I never sang before. And when I got the David Lee Roth gig, he's like, everyone in my band sings. And I'm like, cool. So, and I'm like trying to play Hopper Teacher and singing backgrounds with this gooseneck, like, you know, but you had to do it. And I just like, you know, as the pros that we are, you conform to that gig. Sure, I can sing. Sure. You know, I didn't say no to Dave, you know, but, and then, you know, as far as playing for the tune, all that all, of course, is the same thing in LA. You know, I was with Dave one time and I played something. And he goes, Luzier, I'm sure all he knew I taught at PIT part-time. He goes, I'm sure all the PITers will love that little fill you did. Play for the chicks in the front row. And he was right, you know, I'm doing like crazy kitchen cymbals. So like, and he was right, you know, I learned that. I was 27 when I got that gig. But that was like hard knocks because I'm singing, you know, he's a very demanding artist to play for. I played for him for 8 years and still going to therapy for it. No, but like you learn, you know, but the community here, like I was talking to somebody the other day in LA about like, remember how many auditions we went on? Because we'd all be like, there's a cattle call, 55 drummers. You all got a pair of sticks, you're playing the same 5-piece kit and you're like, what's up, Glenn? Yeah, what's up, Ray? Yeah, good luck. Yeah, good luck. And it's like this little smirk, you know. Out here, it's not like that. You know, it's so competitive out there. You know, but you had a thing that you got called to do because you had an identity. Like I got called I'm not exactly a big band jazz guy, so I got a lot of double bass calls and a lot of rock and funk and stuff like that. But it's when I came here, there's just a different warmth about you guys. You know, there's like it's like a cooler vibe. You know, not that they're not cool out there because they are. There's I met some of my best friends are in LA.
Yeah, I was through the same experience just only for 3 years. And I got a heavy dose of everything you just said.
Yeah.
And, you know, the way I felt from my experience, there was two particular subcultures. It was either the Hollywood, North Hollywood sort of gospel from Chicago or wherever else culture where you're playing these neo-soul, you know, jam nights, or you're just going to watch and meet people. Or, and you know, and then maybe you'll be on a Lil Wayne record or something like that, or you know, maybe Robert Glasper or something. But obviously he's got that locked down with some of his players. But that culture. Then you have the baked potato scene, which was like Studio City, all the older cats from new to old to new that, you know, are, of course we all know Vinnie, and like, you know, from that sort of tree. And I had to go through similar things. And it was, at least here, everyone here, I'm still getting to know. I don't know everybody here, and I want to know everyone here, and I want to take a lesson from every one of you guys.
Absolutely.
Both just verbally and playing. But what I found was, it's more warm here. People are willing to share with each other, at least, and support each other in the competitive industry that we deal with.
Let's talk about Broadway and Nashville and that scene. Tracy, we'll start with you. In your words, can you describe that for those that may not know what Nashville and Broadway means?
For me, this has been one of those journeys where, you get the phrase complete 360 and 180 confused. This is legit 360 for me. I started playing downtown on Broadway again, September of 2020, which is what I started doing when I moved here. And I was working with Jeff at the Hard Rock. Jeff was a host, and I come in all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Hey, I'm a drummer in town. And Jeff was like, great, another one? I was like, dude, what is going on? So in my situation early on, I realized how hard it was for me to be taken seriously because I'd work at the Hard Rock and then try to sit in somewhere, but I wasn't smart enough to bring a change of clothes. So I'm still wearing my Hard Rock shirt. And people are like, who's this guy that wants to sit in with his Hard Rock shirt and his flair, because we had to have flair. And I'm like, gee whiz. So I'd wait all night to sit in. And then, of course, as you're sitting there, I think we've all been through it. They're playing all the songs you know. And when you get called, it's going to be the song you don't know. And you have to fumble through it. And you're like, I'm never going to work in this town again. Because I had to play Mi Vida Loca, which I don't know. But I knew all the other ones. So doing that, even in that respect, when I was just here, I can see how the spider web stretched out as far as this guy that I played a gig with turned me on to this guy. And it's still to this day a necessary evil. I get that you can be on social media and do your videos. That's cool. I think all of us can attest. Go play a gig. Mm-hmm. That's great, man. Listen, you edited that thing to perfection. Good for you. Go play for 4 hours on Broadway. No rehearsal. Having the pucker factor of somebody calling a song and you don't know it. Mm-hmm.
Now talk about that, how long those gigs are on Broadway. And you start at what time and you end at what time before you can even get out of your chair to go hit the head. Talk about that.
You better not drink a lot of water before, because it's going to be a 10 to 2 or 2 to 6 or 6 to 10 or 6 to 12 or whatever, or 2 to 6. Or it could be those late ones. You're done sometimes, if you're lucky, at 2. If you're playing the Kid Rocks, you might be done at 5. Who knows? Wow. So it's like, you can prepare as much as you want for those gigs, but you're never going to be prepared. And for me, doing the 360, getting to get back and study your stuff, which I got away from, because that's the stuff I moved here to do. Like when I was playing in a local band in Louisiana, I was playing and I was learning your stuff lick for lick, man, because that's what we were told to do. Working with a click track. You know how hard it is to get a cover band, a local cover band, to play with a click track? No. So I started doing it because other guys had told me. And so now, being able to do that, it's been so awesome to study that stuff again and to brush up on that and realize, man, I did screw up that bass drum pattern on Blue Clear Sky. What was I thinking? Why did I get so far away from that? And so now, for me, I've been out of it long enough to where, who's the middle-aged guy with the earring playing this gig? And I couldn't be happier. So you show up to the gig, thankfully, I've seen both sides of it, and we've seen both sides of it. When we moved here in the 90s, crappy drum kits. Mm-hmm. Didn't know what you were getting.
No drum kits. And most of them.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't know how many cymbal stands you had, but you also couldn't bring your whole kit because you had to pull up your car in the front, hopefully get all your stuff out before it got towed or ticketed, and then drive around and find a place. Man, you probably end up losing money on that deal. Because you make 25. That was it blew my mind, man. You go from a band, whatever band we were in when we moved here, to Nashville, and you get a call. You get that call, like, cool, I got a gig. Are we going to rehearse? No. Well, what are we playing? Well, whatever they request. Well, what do you mean? Well, it's country music, right? Yeah. So what genre, what time frame we're looking? I don't know. Could be Patsy Cline, could be Leanne Womack. Wait, so I'm going to college. I didn't go to college for music, but wait, we prepared our whole life and I'm going to do a gig in the town that I'm trying to make headway. And we're not rehearsing. And I'm playing on a kit that I don't know. And there's going to be a missing hi-hat clutch. Oh, I think that's a bass drum pedal. Man, you want to talk about the rug being ripped out from under you and you're sweating. You pucker factor is on 100 because you don't know if this gig is going to get you the gig. And if you don't get the gig, you think, I wasn't prepared. So it's like you can be as prepared as you want, but you're never going to be fully prepared. And I'm going through that now. Like, there'll be a song called, I'm like, I should know this one. But then now that we have our phones, I look it up. Okay, that's the tempo. I think I can fake my way through it. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people miss out on, especially, and I'm not trying to sound like the old guy sitting on my front porch, get off my lawn. But when you have to play a gig for 3.5 to 4 hours and it's songs you don't know, you got to learn how to fake it. And what I've always learned, and you guys have taught me this, my brother taught me this, someone in the band is going to know that song. So if you can let your ego go and not be about you playing, somebody's going to guide you in to land that plane. And if you have your head on and you're looking, you'll get through it. You know, they say fake it till you make it. Well, sometimes, man, that is what those gigs are. And I got kicked right in the teeth, man. I got called to do a gig at Music City Bar and Grill. Now, this is over the summer. Now, y'all know about that place, but it shuffles all night long. Like, I played more shuffles in that 4-hour stretch that I have in the last 15 years. I was sweating, nervous. I'm like, and these dudes that regularly play the gig are just like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting judged on this thing. And it was horrible. But guess what? I needed that kick in the pants. And it was great. And so that situation, I had to just figure out, all right, it's a Merle Haggard song. I don't know that one. What's the count off? 3, 4, 1, 2. Okay, who's got it? Steel? Okay, cool. What's the guitar player's kind of tapping it through, so I'll tap my tempo in. All right, cool. Got the tempo, got the count off. Let's go. 3.5 hours of that, nothing can prepare you for that, man. But it's been great. It's like, because our gigs, the ones that have the steady thing and it's the same, that is the script. And that's what you have to play. I didn't realize how far I had gotten. I got soft, I ain't gonna lie. When you're doing those same 18 or 20 songs and it's the script and it's the playbook and it's everything, and you go do 3 hours of that, man, you realize I suck. I'm not as good as I think I am. So it's been great for me to be able to go back into that world. And man, honestly, it's been the best thing I've done in like 20 years. And you would think, man, you should be past that. No, I need that. That's my therapy. And in the last probably 3.5 years that I've been doing it, and this is what's changed. Early on, when I would go to do those gigs, I'd be terrified. Or if you're not playing with guys you like, you're like, this is going to suck. And then you get done, you're like, that sucked. For the 3.5 years I've been doing it, I've never been pissed that I played it or pissed that I did. I've been excited every time. And then, man, I get home, and I'm like, oh, what was that song that I met? And so I'll go through my search history on my phone. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's it. That's the right tempo versus what I played it at. Okay, cool. And so the next time I do it, that's my next quiz. So that's kind of the way I looked at it. So I've embraced it, man. It's been so much fun. I know everybody's kind of done it. It's gotten better.
I would say Broadway now versus Broadway 25, 30 years ago has changed to where you will not find someone that cannot play. Everybody's a player. And, you just walk down and you hear the music that's going on. And you're like, oh, they're playing for 4, 6, 8 hours. Yeah, you're going to have chops, just playing that long. And the songs, knowledge that they have, it's incredible.
Pearl, the best reason to play drums.